Right, for his analysis on all of this, the Australian's foreign editor, Greg Sheridan, joins me now. Greg Sheridan, I want to start, if we can, with that Senate confirmation, the US Senate confirmation of Amy Coney Barrett and now her place on the US Supreme Court. You wrote today that it's possibly Donald Trump's last achievement as president and perhaps his greatest. I don't know how much of her confirmation hearing you watched. I watched as much as I could at night. I was completely in awe of her legal skill and her jurisprudence, her ability to quote lots of case law without a note. I mean, she was quite extraordinary in the way she dealt with a lot of very hostile questions. What's going to be her impact, do you think, on the Supreme Court, given her youth and the fact that she's now there for life?
Well, Peter, I had much the same reaction to her as you did. She's 48 years old. Mind you, I felt profoundly inadequate compared with her in every way. She's 48 years old. She's super fit. She's the mother of 7. She's an absolutely stellar legal scholar. She was a professor of law at Notre Dame, very, very young. And she could be on the Supreme Court for 40 or 50 years. She's also a really fine legal mind, and I think she'll be very persuasive on the Supreme Court. Now, she's a conservative in terms of legal philosophy, which means she interprets the Constitution as it's written. She interprets legislation as it's written. That doesn't mean she's going to be on the right-wing side of every case that comes before her, which could be, broken into a left-wing, right-wing version. But it does mean she won't use the Constitution to create and enforce a new sort of left liberal ideology. I think Biden very dangerously won't say whether he plans to stack the court by increasing the number of judges, but Trump has appointed 3 Supreme Court judges, and one of the main reasons millions upon millions of American Christians voted for Trump, despite his obvious flaws, is so that he would appoint judges who would not curtail their religious liberty or pervert their politics by discovering new law in the Constitution.
You've written a terrific book about Christianity and God. I noticed when she had a lower level court confirmation hearing, there was a lot made of her Catholicism. It's mentioned in plenty of commentary in the media, but it wasn't the harder focus this time round by the senators. That was very much on the Affordable Care Act. Do you think that this is because, maybe this close to the election too, they were fearful, the Democrats, of blowback from these religious attacks? Do you think that's where they may have rethought the strategy?
Oh, yes, I think that was it 100%, Peter. Their civility to Amy Coney Barrett was purely tactical, I think. I hate to say that because you would hope that there would be more civility in politics, but their attack on Brett Kavanaugh was an utterly savage and completely, wildly unjustified culture wars, persecution of him, partly because he was a Catholic. Amy Coney Barrett is a more conservative Catholic than Kavanaugh, it would seem. She belongs to a charismatic Catholic group, and she is a very faithful Catholic. But she says that her private religious views won't inform her legal doctrine, and that seems to be the case of the last 3 years that she's been an appeals court judge. But when she was confirmed as an appeals court judge, Senator Dianne Feinstein questioned her on her Catholic religion and said to her, "The doctrine seems to live loudly in you, Professor Barrett, and that's a concern for us all." Well, this time, butter wouldn't have melted in Senator Dianne Feinstein's mouth. She constantly complimented Amy Barrett on her beautiful family and thanked her for her intelligent answers. Now, I think the Democrats were smart to do this, frankly. I mean, if they had pulled on a Brett Kavanaugh-style show against Amy Coney Barrett, it would have been so absurd and so unreasonable, and I think they would have energised Trump voters, and they would have turned off non-committed Catholics and other Christians. Trump won the Catholic vote in 2016. It looks like Biden will narrowly win it this time. Trump will win church-going Catholics. Biden will win nominal Catholics. And even nominal Catholics could well have, reacted very strongly against demonising their religion. So I think the Democrats were smart to do that, but I wish we could have that degree of civility all the time.
Look, as do I, but I also think, people of faith in the Jewish community and other communities across the United States were looking at how religion was going to be treated in a judge decision maker, and I think that also played a part in it as well. I've got to play this grab for you of Joe Biden and get your reaction.
What kind of country we're going to be? 4 more years of Georgia, he's going to find ourselves in a position where if Trump gets elected, we're going to be in a different world.
Poor Joe Biden's a bit of a ventriloquist doll there. What did you make of that?
Well, look, there's just no doubt at all that Biden has had some cognitive decline. I mean, I think some of his aides or friends have said he's lost his cognitive fastball. Now, normally, one of the great things about an American primary season and presidential campaign is that it is the most searching, searing examination of a candidate's fitness. But the one reason I suspect that Biden might actually be quite well ahead in the polls is that he's hardly been campaigning in the last week or 10 days. And that suggests to me that his campaign thinks he's well ahead, and that the only danger to his election now is some catastrophic, verbal lapse on his part, which is always possible. Now, it is true that 30 years ago, when he certainly had all his marbles and was a smart guy, he was still prone to verbal gaffes, as was the senior George Bush. But it's impossible to watch Biden perform in a spontaneous setting and not conclude that there has been some cognitive decline. And honestly, how it is that a nation as rich and brilliant and superb and successful as the United States can furnish Donald Trump and Joe Biden as the choice for the presidency in 2020 is a bit beyond me.
I think a lot of people have that view. Greg Sheridan, thank you as always.
Thanks, Peter.